Hi there, this is Ryan Schultz, and welcome to Metaverse Newscast. This is the show where we interview the people behind the social VR platforms, virtual worlds, and the metaverse. And my guests today are Medhue and Bagnaria, and we're in their beautiful experience called Scurry Waters. It's good to have you both.
Thank you.
Well, my first question is for you, Medhue, and I wanted to ask you what brought you into virtual worlds in the first place, and what eventually brought you to Sansar?
Many years ago, I think 13 years ago in Second Life, I just saw an interview with Philip about Second Life and went in immediately. I've always loved to create and been very creative in the arts, but I never got into 3D until I found Second Life, really.
Oh, really? That's very interesting. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and I jumped right into animation. That's been my world for 13 years.
And when did you start with Sansar?
Oh, probably a year and a half ago.
Oh, wow. Okay. So basically you transferred over a lot of your knowledge about creating 3D content in Second Life over to Sansar.
Right. And Sansar wasn't really, before that time, they didn't even really have any way to bring in animation. So as soon as they were able to, though, that's all we've been doing ever since.
Well, one of the things I really love about this experience is the amount of animated content that you've got in here. And I wanted to ask you, how do you create that content?
Well, I learned Blender probably 5-6 years ago.
Okay.
And that's been my tool of choice. I love Blender. You couldn't rip it from my hands.
So you use Blender to create the animations as well as the 3D mesh?
Most of the time. A lot of times now, Bagnaria will make the mesh, and sometimes he's even animating. So.
Well, how do you guys split the work between the two of you? Is one of you focused on one aspect more than the other?
We overlap with almost everything, but I have more scripting abilities because I have a software engineering background, and I have done way less animations than Medhue. I have, however, written a software system for animation when I was in my 20s. Okay. So I am very familiar with it, especially from the coding angle. And aside from animation, pretty much everything that's a little bit deeper coding, I write, but I pretty much just enhance the stack of simple scripts by just giving them extra features. And that enables Medhue to actually set things up. Most things here are basically constructed in some sort of Lego block, extended simple scripts.
Okay. Bagnaria, I wanted to ask you, how did you first get started in virtual worlds, and what brought you to Sansar?
Well, I always had a love for 3D, and I had experimented about 20 years ago with 3D Studio Max, and the first thing I actually did, I animated, created, rigged, and animated a teddy bear that was a dancing teddy bear.
Was this in Second Life?
No, that was just like an animation that I made into a movie, and then.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Then later on, I discovered Second Life, and I truly do not remember how I discovered it, but what I distinctly remember is just how excited I was about it, and specifically the ability to build with other people or in front of other people, and just the fact that you were able to create experiences that other people could enjoy with you, because that's a challenge when you're a creator, you're let's say a painter or a sculptor. But usually that object that you created, even a photo, leaves your house, and then you don't really engage with the people who are enjoying your art. While it's in the virtual world, places like Second Life and Sansar or all the other worlds, you're with that person enjoying your content, and that's very powerful. It's very, very attractive to me, and I think attracts a lot of creators.
Yes, I agree with you. Mm-hmm. And how did you come to Sansar?
Well, as a Second Life user, I got an invitation to the beta of Sansar. So as soon as I got that, I checked it out. But I felt that was probably roughly 2 years ago when they had the first call to creators. So right. I checked it out, walked around a little bit, and thought, it's a little bit too early, perhaps. And then a little bit longer than a year ago, I actually went back in and felt, okay, really, it's time to engage now, because otherwise I feel I'm missing the train, and there's enough working here that I can actually be creative and go wild, and that's exactly what has happened in the last year.
Well, you guys have made a beautiful experience here. I really like this. This is one of my favorite Sansar experiences. So tell me, what have some of the challenges been in creating this experience?
Well, Scurry Waters is unique in that it's wide open. You can see everything from everywhere. Nothing blocks anything else. So ultimately, we had to be crazy efficient, in every single way possible. Recently, we just got draw calls, so we're able to add all this, all the plants and a lot more to the experience. But before that, we really had to pay attention to every aspect that we controlled in Scurry Waters.
Can you explain just really briefly what draw calls are?
I can take that. So it's draw distance, and that is an ability in each object you have in your scene to set the distance that it's being rendered at. So, for example, like if you have a small object, like a little rock or a coconut, that doesn't need to be visible from, like, let's say 100 meters away, you just set it to 100 meters, and then it will gently fade out at that distance. And that enables you to add like a ton more content in your scene, because the things that are small and don't need to be visible from a distance are not weighing the engine down.
Oh, I see. Okay, so it makes it easier for people to visit and travel your experience.
Yeah, and it allows us to place like hundreds of additional objects, like all the palm trees and the mountain ranges and all those new plants I just made. Yeah, you could not have placed them.
Okay.
We'd love to stretch the limits as to what you can do in Sansar. And so when we made it initially, we had seen like a music video on a Sunday morning, of a float in an ocean in Tahiti. And we got inspired to create something that has the same feeling. So Scurry Waters basically just started out with just being water and one of the floats that first day. And because it's so vast, like the ocean surface is about 600 by 600 meters, which is like way smaller than what you can do in Sansar. But at the time, that was about the maximum that you could actually do something efficiently. And so the challenge has always been to balance out like not adding too much content, and we have always kind of reached that limit. Like we had phases where, like, when there were more than 6 avatars, everything would crash. But it's allowed Sansar and the engineering team at Sansar to see problems they had not encountered before, and so we're really happy that they always addressed everything that we encountered.
Well, boundary testing is an important part of any virtual world, and it's good that you guys are testing the boundaries. I want to ask about this whole scurries thing. Who came up with the idea of scurries, and what are they?
Well, I have Medhue answer that.
Well, we both Bagnaria and I, when we first met, neither of us were really creating. We were just playing and trying out things.
Right.
And then they announced a maze contest. And,
I remember that, yeah.
Right. And, I asked her if she wanted to do it, and because I knew that the maze would get into a lot of coding, and that wasn't something we played with yet, or Bagnaria had played with yet. So it was really her decision, and once she decided, hey, let's give this a shot, we had to decide on what the theme was. And her and I together worked out back and forth what these scurries were going to be. Okay. And so it was basically our creation.
Yeah, I just said it needs to be cuter all the time.
Constantly.
Well, I think they're really, really cute. I think they're wonderfully cute. What is the most fun that you've had working on building stuff in Sansar?
I have you answer that.
Well, I think when we get and we make a new experience, the idea for coming up with Scurry Waters, the idea for coming up with Scurrylandia, and now Scurry Canyon, and we have a new one coming out. just throwing ideas at each other, bouncing things off of each other.
Okay.
Sure. Yeah.
And keeping each other motivated too, because I don't think you could do this by yourself, because over time you just have to keep motivating yourself, and that's a lot harder than when you're a small team. And also just really nice to have a complementary skill set, but also have overlap enough so that we can actually give objects back and forth. I'm usually doing more of the texture work, for example, but we're literally working on the same asset. We take the palm tree.
Most of the assets.
Yeah, most of the assets are definitely created together. So sometimes Medhue does something by himself, like the parrot is all Medhue, and I made this set of new plants. But in general, we are just giving it back and forth. He models a gun, I texture it, and it goes back and forth, and it makes it fun, because it also pushes you creatively to do better than you would do just by yourself.
The parrot in particular, I love. Can you talk a little bit about what tools you used to create it and how long it took you to make that parrot? Was that in Blender too?
Yes, that was entirely created in Blender. Even all the texture work and everything was all done in Blender.
Okay.
Or Photoshop, too.
Oh, you use Photoshop as well. Okay.
But basically, the entire parrot, from the rig to the model to the texturing, all done, mostly in Blender.
It's wonderful work. So what features would you like to see on the Sansar platform over the next little while?
Well, obviously, people are always asking for more interactivity, and to us that means when you look around, we are specialized in animation, right? Everything moves in Scurry Waters in all of our experiences, but what we are not able to do yet is to move an object independently. So you can currently not just take a scurry and have it follow you, for example. And that's one of the products we're planning on having, pets and creatures like that.
Okay.
And the second big one is being able to ride vehicles. And we're pretty confident that both things are coming in the next half year, roughly.
Put both of those together, you'll be riding horses and dragons.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. I would love to ride a dragon in Sansar. That would be amazing. How do you respond to people who criticize Sansar because, as they say, there's nothing to do here?
Well, I think in some ways that's true. But that's not going to be true over time, because it's just, we have the tools now. Bagnaria and I, we built Scurry Waters and many other experiences that are all interactive. And it's just about everyone learning what is possible. So I think just give it time, and almost every experience will have interactivity.
Yeah, when I started a year ago, it was basically like a big museum, but a very high quality museum at that already. We have been given way more interactive features now, recently, for example, support for simple scripts and guns, and those are popping up everywhere over the Atlas. So you can actually find so much to do now. So I think maybe a year ago that argument was true, but if someone really looks around and has their eyes open, just here in Scurry Waters, you have about 12 different activities. You can battle pirate ships, you can throw knives at boards, you can shoot bubbles at each other and trap people in bubbles. There's literally 12 different little games embedded in just this experience. And this is one of 3 experiences we have, and they're all like that. Scurrylandia is more like an adventure game, and the Scurry Canyon is like a shooting range where you shoot skeleton scurries, but it's very interactive. And when you look around, you will actually find so much to do already. And if someone gives that argument, they're typically not spending much time in Sansar. It's typically people who were on VRChat or who just found Sansar through Steam, and then they're spending half an hour. And maybe they start in the wrong experience that's just a beautiful world, but there's nothing to do. And that is really something that we try to combat in giving people more to do. And when someone tells us, hey, there's nothing to do, we can give them 20 examples of things to do that are really fun to do. So it's a mute argument by now, in my humble opinion.
One of the things that I have noticed about Second Life and Sansar both is that they tend to attract an older crowd of users, especially when compared to places like Rec Room and VR Chat. What are your thoughts about that?
I think it's interesting that Ready Player One centers around that 80s crowd, and the Second Life crowd is that 80s crowd,
Yes, you're right.
And it's very interesting that the same people that grew up with rotary phones are running around with headsets now, But I think it's great and especially good for both Second Life and Sansar because we have a more mature crowd that is probably going to get more into, creating things to do.
I think you've got a good point there.
Mm-hmm.
So can you show me a little bit more about each of these spots on this map here?
Sure, if I remember all of them. So we are currently at position 4, which is the knife board. Then in this position, number 5, you can ride on stingrays, which will carry you from here to here, roughly.
Okay.
Then number 3 is like a board with a mannequin where you can throw knives into the board that will stick, which is kind of fun. Number 6 is like a cannon test range. So you have like 2 cannons on this round platform there, and you can shoot that cannon at a target to practice because in this area you actually over here, number 2, you have what we call sink the ship, which is like these 2 pirate ships battling each other. So you can have 2 groups of people shooting cannons and have the other boat explode, which is super duper fun. Cool. Number 9 is a Pearl Quest. The Pearl Quest is actually like a prerequisite for one of our other experiences where when you're fulfilling it, you get a weapons upgrade in the canyon. So you basically have to crack some shells open and deliver them to 3 different scurries. Another really fun one is the speedboat ride. In that one, you have to bribe a scurry with a fish. He loves fish. And then he gives you like a ramp ride that does a round, and it's really fun to do. Number 8 is a very simple quest where you have to find a starfish and deliver it to a scurry. And number 7 is taking a ride with a scurry on a raft. So some of them are simple, some of them are pretty complex, but they're all fun. And once you complete them all, we make sure you get some rewards for it as well.
Great, that's wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
So I've heard about this bubble game. Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Yeah, in actuality, there is one blank spot here, which will be a bubble, so that you can teleport to our 10th quest, the bubble game. And the bubble game is using the Sansar gun script and enhances it in a way where you actually shoot bubbles at people to trap them in the bubble, and they will float up into the air for 10 seconds, and that is what counts as a hit. So it's super fun, and people seem to enjoy that more than anything we've created so far.
Oh, well, let's take a look.
Mm-hmm. All right.
How do I...
You activated it just now, and like in 5 seconds, I'm going to able to bubble you.
Okay. That's a trip and a half.
In this experience, we made almost everything ourselves.
So explain a little bit how this cannon works and how I'm supposed to aim it at this. I'm supposed to aim this at the pirate ship, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, if you click the base, then that triggers the animation of the cannon to rock back and forth.
Okay.
And then you can try and time that rocking to hit one of the sails.
I didn't realize your own ship could get hit.
Oh, yeah, totally. Oh, there it is right there. That's
yes! Oh my God, this is so good for venting my frustrations. Like, you have no idea. So we're in Scurry Canyon. Can you tell me a little bit about this experience, Bagnaria?
I sure can. So about 3 months ago, the lab released support for guns in their scripting stack. And We just wanted to create a fun experience around that. That is not just like a target practice, but really kind of a fun gaming experience with a scoreboard, so that people can compete and like actually blow things up and let steam a little bit. And we ended up with Scurry Canyon.
Can I give it a try?
Absolutely, you can.
Geronimo!
There we go.
Well, I'd like to thank both of you for giving me the tour of Scurry Waters and Scurry Canyon. I've really enjoyed this. And as always, I'm Ryan Schultz, and this is Metaverse Newscast.
Bagnaria, why do you like Sansar?
Of all the worlds I have been visiting, I think Sansar shows the greatest potential. Like we have stunning visuals. Like it's just at the beginning, but like the beginnings are really showing the potential for the future. And I think the biggest piece of the puzzle is that they provide really good support to script items here. And we only now start seeing people really take advantage of all the different things they can already do.
And I think Sansar versus other worlds is a world for creators.
How, if people from Second Life were watching this, what would you tell them to get them to try this out, if possible?
Well, one point or one great aspect of Sansar is that worlds are basically free. You get to have up to 20 experiences that are vast. They're 4,000 by 4,000 meters, and that is like 64 times bigger than like a single Second Life sim. 64 times, because like a Second Life sim is 256 meters, which fits 8 times into 4,000, and that is like a whole area that you can do 20 times over. And anyone who is interested in creating vast worlds will find it very rewarding.
And Medhue, what would you tell Second Life people wanting to try out Sansar?
I would say that it's vastly more efficient, vastly better frame rates, and the visuals. I think a lot of people in Second Life love the visuals. Well, in Sansar, it's even better.
So what experiences do you have that you guys are working on for the future? What's in the pipeline for people?
We have many ideas for experiences, but the next one that we have is originally we thought up many months ago called Finding Melda. But this one's going to be completely different, just like all of our experiences are different. This one's going to be completely different in that it's going to be more of a puzzle or mystery solving type of game.
Finding Nelda is basically our attempt to an escape room type of game where you have to solve puzzles to advance from level to level. So it's going to be super much fun, but it's also like one of our more elaborate experiences. So it will take us a while to put together, but I think it's going to be worth it. And that's what we're about. Like we always try to push the bar, like not repeating ourselves too much and mixing it up. And it will be really fun.
How do you guys feel about the future of Sansar?
Well, I'm very optimistic because we have stunning visuals. Like we become more and more interactive. And if you really have a close eye at Sansar, you know just how much potential it does have.
Yeah, definitely. I think the future's bright. I think there's lots of different things that we can do. The average person that comes in here can still, even though it's technical, can still use Sansar.